Firstly, tonight, there are so many issues right now that are so completely divisive, where it's almost impossible to find any common ground amongst those who view them from opposite sides of just about any spectrum you can name. The sports sponsorship fiasco of last week is a great example. Another, and one we find ourselves right in the middle of now, is whether or not this country should welcome back ISIS brides and their babies. It's happening, clearly, but should it be? I'm not short of a strong opinion. I'm also not afraid to jump off the fence and take a strong stance. But I've got to tell you, I'm really torn on this one. This weekend, the first group of repatriated Australians landed back in Sydney. 4 Islamic State wives and 13 children. Amongst them, Mariam Debussy, the daughter of Kamal, who we had on this show back in July. He said the sooner we bring them home, the better for everyone.
They're going to come back sooner or later. My grandson is going to come back to Australia where he's 5, 15 or 25. He will come back to Australia. He is Australian with no other nationality. So he will be back anyway. So it's better for the government to control the environment, bring them back in the circumstances that they're able to receive them with, provide the support services, do the investigations. You know, this is a unique situation. Australian government has to investigate, prosecute or exonerate. I accept that. That is the role of the government to do for everyone that's out there.
Is he right? I don't know. He's fought for the return of his child and grandchildren for years. And I don't doubt for a second that he's a good, decent man. I also understand his desperation to bring Mariam home. Most of us would do anything to save and protect our kids. I look at the babies in those camps and they are innocent, those babies, and it breaks my heart. It really does. But what will the cost be to us as a nation if this is the wrong decision? What risk does this significant move pose to our kids, yours and mine, the very ones that could, if this goes pear-shaped, be victims of some of the kind of attacks we've seen on home soil and around the world? Islamic State is a particular type of evil it's hard to imagine, let alone comprehend. They expose babies, toddlers, to murder, torture, rape. The radicalisation of those within their reach, even for short periods of time, is well documented. The evidence surrounding the process of trying to de-radicalise is sketchy at best and almost non-existent at worst. I'm nervous, and I'm not alone. Plenty of you are too. And spare a thought as well for the Yazidis, an Iraqi ethnic minority, many of whom fled their home country for the safety of Australia after being brutally persecuted by ISIS. The horror stories are almost too graphic to tell. How must they feel, knowing that ISIS families are right now landing back in this country, their apparent new safe space? I wanted to find out. Salam Karo fled northern Iraq 3 years ago and was one of hundreds settled in the New South Wales town of Armidale. And he joins me now. Salam, thank you so very much for your time. Before we get onto this issue, I'd love to know, how have you settled in and how are you loving your time in Australia?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Erin. Thanks for having me and giving me the opportunity. I've been here in Australia for 3 years and 4 months now. So we've been settled just before this news, but unfortunately, we can talk a bit about what's happening right now.
Tell me about the kind of talk that's going on in your community about these ISIS brides and kids coming back here to Australia.
Well, there is very much discussion since we saw the news through Sky News yesterday morning. And the Yazidi community who've been liberated from ISIS and who came to Australia under the humanitarian visa, some of those people, they feel it's been like the anxiety of the level of anxiety, it's been very high now. And some of those single moms who their husband been killed by ISIS may think to go back home again to Iraq because of the fear of those people and because of ISIS. And we felt when we came to Australia, we thought we would been very, very away from ISIS. But now bringing those people to Australia, the Yazidi community has been very unhappy about this decision. And just imagine to see the people who killed your family and your sisters and brothers and fathers. How are you going to feel? And what are you going to do?
Yeah, I can't even imagine how that would make you feel. And it's probably too graphic, so don't get too graphic for me, but what kind of atrocities were committed upon your family back in Iraq by ISIS?
Well, on the 3rd of August 2014, the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, ISIS, committed terrible and brutal crimes against the Yazidi community as a result of 7,000 Yazidis being killed, including my grandmother and my cousin. And on that day, 7,000 Yazidis being killed and 86 mass graves been discovered so far in Iraq, and 68 holy places or religious shrines been completely destroyed by ISIS.
How do you feel when people say, and look, it's not even up for debate, that these kids are innocent children? You know, these babies are not evil yet. They haven't made a conscious decision, but they could have been radicalised. How do you feel about that? That must be also hard, because you're obviously a person who cares about other people as well. What do you respond to with that?
I think from my point, they should be like those people, including the children. They should be in the jail forever, not bringing them in another life and giving them a chance, because what they have done against the Yazidi community. If you're going to hear their stories and about what they have done, including the children and these women, you just say these people should be just in the jail, because they have done a very bad things against the Yazidi community and against the humanity. And their brain is full of hate, and there is nothing good in their brain, and they can do anything bad when they get a chance.
What would you say to the Australian government right now?
Well, we was hoping from the Australian government, from this new government, to increase their resources and finding 3,000 Yazidi people who've been missing by ISIS 8 years ago now, and also allocating more places for people who make Australia better and make Australia good, not bringing those people who make Australia worried. And those people, they are very dangerous for everyone who lives in Australia, not just for the Yazidi community. As I said, they can bomb themselves at any time, and they can kill the people around them when they get a chance. That's what they have learned from back. And they are very dangerous.
Okay, well, I don't think anyone can put themselves in your position or relate to how you feel now, but I know it must be horrendous. So thank you so very much for your time, Salam. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks, Erin. Thanks for having me.